Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be looking at stretching our backgrounds. So this background here we colored in a live stream, and who doesn't want to stretch their supplies and turn them into more things? So we're going to take that one bold background and we're going to create 3 different cards with different layouts and just totally different designs, so that way we can kind of stretch out what we have. We are using the Bloom and Buzz for this. This is a stamp and die set that is a collaboration between Honeybee Stamps and Paper Smooches, Kim Mraz from Paper Smooches. And so basically we created the whole background ourselves by stamping. We're going to stamp with our Intense Black ink here. This is safer alcohol markers because that's how I'm going to do the background. You could do this with any background you wanted to create, whether you wanted to watercolor it or ink blend it or whatever works for you. I'm a colorist. I like coloring. That's what works for me. So here I'm stamping, and in order to make sure that everything kind of has a nice flow, I'm going to make sure that I stamp off of the page, and I just filled up the entirety of the background. Start in the center so that way you don't run out of room. And then I do like to go in, and I call it color mapping. I like to go in when I have a busier background like this, and just take my lightest color and kind of block out each of the colors, so that way when sorry about that, it was part of a live stream. So that way when I go back in, I can very easily find what colors I am looking for, and everything makes a little bit more sense and it's a little bit less overwhelming when I already know what all of the things are going to be. So with that said, once we do the color mapping, then we're going to just jump right into the coloring. I colored the stamped images that I used as focal points the same way that I colored the background. So I'm just going to show you everything here on the background, and then I will... they are identical, I promise you. The only thing that I didn't show here is the 1B from Be Well, and so I did leave that one into the other portion of the coloring. So I do like to mix up my greens, my greenery. I just feel like it adds a little bit more interest. Not everybody is into that, and that's fine too. You can, customize yours however you would like. Also, switch up the colors. I used really bold, bright colors because I really love bold, bright colors. So if you don't, that's okay. You can color these in pastels or jewel tones or whatever strikes your fancy. But I did keep the shading pretty simple. I am using 3 or 4 color blends depending upon what I'm coloring. And for the most part, I just followed really simple rules of where 2 objects meet, we add shadows, and where one object lays on top of the other. And so that's how I added my shadows. I didn't get too crazy with the realism. These images are not drawn to be realistic. I think I even said this in the live stream. Kim's style is a very American traditional kind of tattooing, where it's a bold black outline, which if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, I'm a huge fan of. Love a bold black outline, love a more simple kind of coloring, images to color that just makes me happy. And then I can add all of my pizzazz with my markers. And I used to do lots of work with Kim when she had Paper Smooches, so I'm super happy to see her stuff back around. I did a rainbow watercolor with the die cuts that she released, and just the other day. I'll link that at the end in case you didn't see it, but I was thrilled to be able to color her stuff again. For these smaller flowers, everything the same, even though we're changing the color. So we've done a yellow, an orange now, and then we'll do a purple. So shading where they're meeting the center of the flower, and then where one petal is kind of tucked underneath a leaf, there'll be a little bit more shading, or where the petal is kind of turned up over itself, there'll be a little bit of shading. If you are nervous about having a kind of overall darker flower, you can do the shading of the part that's like turned over or the part that's tucked behind the leaf with your dark midtone. And then, you just leave the darkest dark in the center. That would be okay too. You just want to create just a little bit of dimension. I know that sometimes people struggle when we're coloring items like roses or peonies or something where there's a lot of layers, like heavy layering of the petals. And in those cases, I would just tell you don't have to extend it out a ton. So when you're putting down your color, if all you can get in is one line of dark or one dot of dark, that's fine. Because a little bit goes a long way, and just having that little bit there will help to carry your dimension. So you don't really have to get crazy with it. That's part of the reason why for years I colored starting with my lightest color, like lightest color, light midtone, dark color, and then in reverse, darkest color, dark midtone, light midtone, lightest color. And that's because it allowed me to build up the color and lay down the shadows in the lightest color, and that's where I was most comfortable because I was scared of darker colors to start with. And now that I'm more comfortable, I can go in with the darker colors. And honestly, that isn't with every image. That sometimes I still start with my lightest color if it's an image I'm unfamiliar with. So this is this is I was doing this, and yesterday was supposed to be my premiere over on Honeybee. And my husband ended up unfortunately, he got stuck staying at work, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast when you work in public service. And so I was solo with the kids, which means that I didn't get my my stuff done in time. So then today, I was working on finishing up the cards and doing my editing and all of those things, so that I could get it up today. And even now, like, I'm right up against it. I should not be trusted whatsoever to hit a deadline. But today I was talking to Dawn a little bit, just about some different things, crafting or whatever. And she was editing a video, who's excited for that? I'm thrilled. So she was editing a video, and I was finishing up making these cards, and we edit two totally different ways. Like, we don't edit the same. And I'm sure if I talk to other card makers, like, about their editing process, they probably also don't edit the same as her or the same as me. I pre-edit. So I film everything, and then I whittle it down to what needs to be left in there. And then I just, once everything is edited, the full video is edited, I then go back in and do the voiceover, and I just talk straight through it. So, like, what are we? We're at the 8-minute mark, so I've just been talking for 8 minutes. This video is 20 some minutes long. By the time all is said and done, I'll just have talked for 20 minutes straight. And not everybody wants to do that, and I get that. When I first started doing videos, like, everybody was doing music over there, because there's only so many times, and this is just the truth. Let's talk about this. So here's what's happening. Have you ever had a marker that just like leaked all over your project? So here, can you see how wet this marker is? It is getting ready to leak and ruin my project. It is an overfilled marker. See how wet that is? So if you see this happening, here's what you can do, because that's a normal marker. That's not an overfilled marker. When you see it happening where it's getting really wet and it's getting ready to ruin your project, you can take off, if it's a Copic marker, you can take off the lid on the other side, and it almost immediately dries it up. So if that's happening and you see it, like where it's starting to get like really wet on the end, just take off the other cap if you're using Copic markers. I know Olos, if theirs are those are not the same. There's no cap to take off. So there isn't really a way around that outside of just like using a lot of ink. But that happens not that often with them because you're not refilling it yourself. These I refill myself and sometimes I overfill them. But like the Ohuhu markers, they have a cap on the other side, so it would probably work with them. But anyway, that's just something to note in there. And then I'm leaving the lid off the other end while I go back to coloring, and then it's not going to ruin my project. So anywho, so I just talk straight through my voiceovers because there's only so many times. This is how story time came to be. There's only so many times that you can be like lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, shadows to shadows overlapping, blah blah blah. Like I just felt like I was completely repeating myself, and who would want to listen to me just go on, just drone on and on about the same things. Because I'm coloring them, all of them, the same way, even though I am switching up the colors. The actual technique for the coloring is same. So instead of doing music, which everybody else was doing at the time, and I found to be so incredibly boring when I watched other people's videos, I ended up telling stories to just kind of like fill the time. So Dawn, when she edits her videos, she edits and voices over at the same time. So she edits, she voices it over, she edits, she voices it over, edits, voice, blah, blah, blah. You get it, okay? So because she was on the phone with me while she was editing, she could not be voicing over. And so she says to me, like, what do you do? What do you do when you're talking about something that you're doing and you haven't left enough footage to talk about it? And I'm like, girl, I just keep talking. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean that I don't have enough time to talk about it? I have 25 minutes to talk about it. Like, that's literally what I'm here to do, is just talk about it. And she was like, yeah, but like if it's already moved on. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like the whole video, the whole video is about the thing. So if I'm talking about the thing after I've done it, like, and I'm still talking about it, they know what I'm talking about. And then from there, okay, so here, this is the whole thing colored, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I love the bright colors, but I'm here for the drama. So I am actually going to go in to make this background like really bold and dramatic. I'm going to go in and color it black. Now, this is not going to be for everybody, and that's totally cool. If it's not for you, don't do that. Here, I do like when I'm filling in the background, I find this to be very relaxing. Just going in and I outline everything beforehand. I could have planned my stamping better. We'll talk about that in a second. So I outline everything to make sure that I'm not going to get into my coloring. So I outline my whole little section, and then I will go in and here I ended up, I did color in his little body black, and then I realized I was going to lose his little body, so I had to go hit it with some gray, so hopefully that it would stay out. But anyway, then once I have this all like outlined, I will then fill in one section, and then I'll move on to the next. And this is very therapeutic for me. I think maybe because I'm a child of the 90s and I used to do this in paint. Like I would just outline, I would, type my little boyfriend's name or whatever, and then I would just outline it in all of these colors until the whole thing was completely outlined in colors all the way out to the edge. Also did this with gel pens. When I wrote notes. So anyway, I find it to be quite cathartic. And I know that's not going to be for everyone, but that's fine. So here is our background completed. Now we're going to chop it up. That can be scary, but it's okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I know that I want one of those pink flowers as a focal point. So this is, by the way, an A2 size card. So it's 4 1/4 by 5.5. So I'm going to cut a 3 by 3 square right out of this top left corner. And I do have go-to like designs for when I'm chopping up a background. I tried to switch it up this time so that we would have something different. So the 3x3 leaves me with 1.25 inches on the right-hand side. I'm going to finish trimming that out. So that gives me a long piece. And then this leaves me with a 3 by, what is it? 2.5. 2.5. Yeah, 3 by 2.5. So in order to cut this in half, I should have cut it at like 1 3/4 or right abouts there. I ended up not cutting it in the correct way, but it's still going to work. So here's how I'm going to lay them out for the ideas that I have. I did end up changing these, but so the first one, the square, is my focal point. This one, I thought, oh, well, I could use this, little guy on the right-hand side, and I could build up a focal point on the left-hand side. And then these, I wanted to kind of stretch the design to make it look as if I had more of the pattern paper than I did. So my game plan is to kind of put one at the top and one at the bottom to really kind of stretch it out. And then I went ahead and stamped all of my extra piece. These are going to create our focal points. They're the same images. There's that bee I was telling you about. Isn't he cute? So I'm going to stamp a bunch of these, and then I'm going to color them the same way that I did for the background. And that way they each have a focal point. Now that first one really just has some supporting characters. It doesn't have the full thing, but here's me coloring this little bee. And I just did it the same way that I colored the other little bee with the same colors. I did his body and his head, and then I did a little bit of blue for his wings. But anywho, so Dawn, frequently between the two of us, we end up reciting song lyrics. That's probably not a thing for everybody, but it is a thing for her and I. And so when we were on the phone talking about, like, I was like, girl, just keep talking. Like, just talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. And I was like, ooh, what song is that from? Is the talk about it, gotta move on, do. So anyway, both of us for like 25 minutes, we're like, what song is that? What song is that? What song is that? So I'm not going to tell you what song it is in case you want to guess, but I'll put the answer in the YouTube description below. It's very 80s with the synth pop. But anyway, this is how our conversations go. It's like we have conversation ADD. So for this long one, I ended up splitting it. So I cut it in half. And here I was like, oh, maybe I should have kept it together, and I could have done like these little flowers here in the middle. That would also, this is definitely an idea that would work. But I liked it more as a portrait. So I ended up flipping it. And then I'm going to do the pattern paper on the left and right hand side to create kind of like a column in the center for my focal point. And then I did cut little pieces of black cardstock to trim it out, just because I feel like that gives a really nice finished edge. This one, I just put all of the stems toward the middle and tried to create more of a balanced bouquet with the little flowers. I did cut those apart, by the way, just to be transparent. I did not stamp a bunch of them. I stamped like 4 and then I cut them all apart. And then here I'm just basically gluing them to each other so that way I can pick up the focal point. And you could do this as a landscape card or you can do it as a portrait, because I'm using like basically what is like the leftover scrappy bits of my background. I only need just a little bit. I think this is like a 1/2 inch, maybe a little more than that between the two. Did I trim some off? I don't remember trimming some off, but I must have, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't be even. So I must have trimmed some off. So that it's just a 1/2 inch on each side. And then here are these little teeny tiny, like 1/8 of an inch, black cardstock strips. These are easiest to get with a guillotine trimmer, like if you're trying to get on the thinner side. And then once I had those glued down, I did go around the edges with the black marker, just so everything that would kind of like fade into the background. For the sentiment, this is so funny. So I told you, like, years and years ago, I did work with paper smooches, and they did not, because dies for your stamps and dies for your sentiments were not always a thing. And if you're, in the industry in the last 10 years, you might not know that. But those of us who are old dinosaurs know, like, that was not a thing. You were fussy cutting them yourself, or you were cutting them into labels. And I completely forgot that I had dies for this sentiment. And so I cut it into a label, and then I put some foam tape underneath it, and then I popped it up right there in the middle. And I was like, okay, good to go. That's my card. We're going to come back to it. Don't worry. So for this one, I did trim my white panel down just 1/8 of an inch on each side so that I would have a small black border. I also cut a black square just 1/8 of an inch larger than my panel so that I would have that. I like a framed in look. I can't help myself. And then here, this isn't glued down yet. I'm just holding it in place so that I can stamp the sentiment. The sentiment says "Missing You." This is from Tweeties. I think it's the Tweeties, which I have not used yet, but I fully intend to. So, and then here I'm using our black foam tape, because you're not going to be able to see it from the side. It'll just look black, which I really do like very much. And then here I am centering it in the top portion with the little "Missing You" below, and then I'm going to adhere my 2 little bees amongst my flowers, and I used my little ladybug to act as like a little highlight for my sentiment. I did blend those bees into the background like I normally do, so you can't see the white outline. And then this one is the one where I told you we're going to make it look like we have more pattern paper than we actually do. So I'm going to adhere, first of all, I flip-flopped them. So like the bottom portion I am gluing to the top, and the top portion I'm gluing to the bottom. This makes it so that your brain doesn't try to put the picture together. So like the top of that purple flower is at the bottom, and the bottom of the purple flower is at the top. So your brain isn't trying to like put them together because they can see that it matches up. And then I'm going to use this large floral cluster to sit right in the center here. And then this is going to give the illusion that there's more of that pattern paper in the background. Again, we're going to blend these in to each other. And then this is going to be our focal point for our third card. I did pop this up again using that black foam tape. And then I did heat emboss another sentiment. I just did the hello. Here's where I realized that I have dies for these, by the way. And I'm like, oh, let me just go ahead and get in there and die cut this one out. It looks so much better. So I did die cut that one, and then I also die cut the hello. And I just peeled the label right off of that little foam tape, and then I'm gonna run this through my what is this? My Scout. And then I'll put that little hello there in the kind of the bottom left. And then, of course, you guys know that I have to add all of the details and the glitters. So this is some clear glitter. I think this one is the Wink of Stella. But I use the Nuvo one and the scrapbook.com one. They're all great. So just some clear glitter onto all of the images. And then I went in with my white gel pen. I did add some highlights to the flowers. I also added some dots into the center of the smaller flowers where the stamen are drawn. I did some highlights on the little bees' wings and on some of their bodies, as well as the little ladybugs. And then the last thing to kind of bring everything together, I used some rainbow rhinestones to kind of highlight the sentiment or create some balance in some of the designs. And then that's it. That's all 3 cards. So I hope that this inspires you to kind of stretch your supplies, see what you can get out of one background, maybe play around with some color and some dramatic backgrounds. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.